Welcome to the Gen Z Show, where we talk about empowering the next generation leader.
In today's episode, we are going to be talking about an alternative approach to student jobs with our guest speaker, Daniel Joseph from Local Student.
Without further ado, let's get started.
Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us on this session where we are going to be talking about alternative approaches for high school students, teenagers to look for opportunities. Now, you obviously worked with an organization called Local Students, and I was just wondering if you can just give us how you got started with Local Students, just a little bit of background.
Yeah, for sure. So I can actually give you even a bit more than that. I'll give you how the whole thing started as well. So I got started with Local Student because I had actually worked, I knew Alex, who's the co-founder and CEO of the company from College Pro, which you've also talked about. So we knew each other previously. He sent me a message on LinkedIn this September to talk about like the startup that he's working on, Local Student. And the premise was to essentially fix the problems with student jobs. And I thought that was a very interesting idea. I liked the flexibility the position offered, and I thought like this is a mission that I could get behind. And at the time, I had already left College Pro, and I felt that I wanted something more to do, but I didn't really want to start another business just yet. It wasn't really the right timing for it. So I thought this was a really great opportunity in front of me. Now, how it started, Local Student itself, is Alex and I guess Marco, who's the other co-founder, had actually worked in home services for like, I guess, ever since they were young, like mowing lawns and, doing other like home service sorts of jobs. And they found like a lot of their, like, a lot of other students would complain about their jobs because, super low pay, like very fixed shifts with like very little flexibility. And there was a big problem with micromanagement, since people don't trust students to do much. But with home services, they found that they could earn great pay, like much better than like most students could. They could choose where they wanted to work, and they could essentially work autonomously and be their own boss. So both of them independently came up with an idea of like, I guess, maybe we should find some students, find some customers and connect the two, because like their customers would always be asking them, like, do you have any friends who do other sorts of work around the house or things like that? So they figured, why not make a platform to connect the two parties? And then they met, and they started building Local Student itself.
Wow. And from an entrepreneur perspective, can you share like tips on how you got started in building the team, like expanding that team with Local Students?
Absolutely. So actually, when they first started building the company Local Student itself, it was just Alex and Marco working on it. Like they took some, I guess, non-scalable actions to try and get the first few customers. Like they were knocking on doors and then trying to find customers, and then they knock on doors on the same street trying to find a student who could like do the job, which was kind of interesting. So actually, when they first started building the team, they first actually looked internally to like this group of students they've assembled, and they found one guy, Cameron, who they thought, this would be a good first hire. So they essentially used the network that they had previously built when building the company to get those first employees.
Wow. Okay. And were there like, you did share a little bit about your mission. Your mission is really to help foster this whole area of giving a good pay and entrepreneurial mindset to students, giving them the freedom to choose and flexibility, which is all good. I mean, how does it help high school students with their future job prospects? Like with once they join Local Students, like what is it that they can do to use that for any future job prospects?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So beyond, I guess, just earning great pay and like we're being able to work flexibly, it shows that they can take initiative and work on their own. So a lot of jobs that students have, it's very like do exactly as I say when I say it. They're kind of just like following orders, doing what they need to get done. With Local Student, like they choose how much they work. We're also working on essentially creating, I guess, a more easier way to track that. So like, if a student completes a certain amount of jobs in the summer, they can get like a certificate, which they can show their employers, proving that they were like a top performing student. And as the company has gotten quite a few mentions on, bigger like news outlets like CTV or CP24, breakfast television. So like those sorts of things can really help them with their career prospects, because it shows that they're able to take initiative and take jobs of their own accord, and work, very hard on their own terms without, someone having to tell them to work hard, or like tell them to like do all these jobs at once.
And the freedom sounds great, right? And you are competing. It's lovely that you guys got the notable mention on all these media outlets, and you're coming up with all these ideas to give students that freedom. How are you kind of setting yourself apart from Burger King and McDonald's, which is the norm, right? It is the norm that we go and we apply for those jobs. Not we, as in teenagers usually tend to do that. So how do you set yourself apart from those organizations?
Yeah. So I guess that's kind of our founding. The reason Local Student was founded was to completely change the way students find work. Like, if you look at those positions, like the core premise of them hasn't really changed for a long time. And those three main problems that I brought up, very low wages, inflexible hours, and a lot of micromanagement are very prevalent in those specific industries, right? So what a lot of students have found these days is that, that low wage doesn't really help them pay off their debt, or like, give them spending money. And it also, I guess when it comes to the hours, if they have like, if they're in university or even in high school, the inflexible hours really do tend to clash with like their school schedules or their social activities. People, I guess, especially as the world goes more and more online and becomes more, I guess, technology centered, consider like how we use our smartphones as like almost an extension of ourselves today. Like, and we're like, 10, 20 years ago, that the smartphones were barely even a thing. Maybe not 10 years ago, sorry, 20 years ago, smartphones were not really a thing. So everything has changed. The way people work has changed. Those jobs have not. And they're putting a lot of pressure on students right now, because like they just are not good essentially they don't work for students. So by offering all, like kind of solving with us, like I said, students earn great pay, like often well upwards of $20 an hour. They can choose that. They have that flexibility to build their schedule around their school schedule, or work however much they want. And they can kind of, work autonomously on their own terms without having someone breathing down their neck. So I guess that's how we differentiate ourselves directly from the jobs.
And can you walk me through the journey of a student who applies to Local Students, and what they get through, how they get trained, and how they get onto the field, and what kind of jobs do they get onto the field doing? So just walk me through a journey of a student that you hire.
For sure. So when a student is applying to Local Student, they generally go to our website. They see our ads, and their ads will direct them to our website. From there, they fill out a profile about themselves, like, where they live, the phone number, that stuff, but also a bit about themselves as well, like why they think they'd be a good fit for the position, all those sorts of things. And once they finish completing their profile, our team will look through all the completed profiles. And if we decide we like their profile, we'll send them an invite to a phone interview. So that's where we do our screening. So from there, during that phone interview, we'll see if they're a good fit, if they're like a hard worker, someone who's like self-motivated, who's, willing to like take jobs when they want, and who's also, going to cares about delivering a quality job, and not just like, skipping out, doing something as easy as they can, to get as much money as they can for as little work as they can do. So once we screen them out, if we hire them, we send them a contract and like an email with a set of next steps. So like they link up their account to Stripe, which is how we charge our customers. So whenever they complete a job, they mark it as complete. 24 hours after, payment gets processed, and their portion will get deposited directly into their bank account like 5 to 10 business days later. So, and then there's also like the contract, which is like, of course, like making sure like, they're working for us, they aren't soliciting our customers, all those sorts of things. And then there's also a link to our guidelines and training mandates. So that's like, how to perform a job, what to do at a job. We generally try to look for some previous experience as well when people are applying for positions, but we're willing to take on people who are, not, I guess, experienced with like lawn mowing or leaf cleanup or snow removal, as long as they can send us some video proof of that showing us like, they've learned, I guess. So if they're unexperienced at the start, they can take a video of them mowing the lawn or like trimming the edges, showing that they have the experience to actually like do those sorts of steps essentially, and they can do the job properly.
And what are your clients saying? How, you've been in business for some time right now. What are your clients saying? Both, if you can share the really good stuff, and also if there are any challenges that your clients mentioned and how you overcame those challenges as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So our clients really like the mission. They like the idea of helping out students. A lot of them are parents or were students themselves, and they know how the mission of really solving the problem of student jobs really does resonate with them. So like they like the core concept, which is a pretty big thing. Now, yeah, I think we're 4.7 or 4.8 stars on Google right now in terms of reviews. So we're able to like a lot of them are very, very happy with the level of service that we're able to deliver. Of course, in like any service-based business, there are sometimes things that go wrong, and in those cases, we try to rectify it and help the customer out as much as possible. But like, of course, there's like everyone has a few unhappy customers, especially when you're dealing with like an on-demand sort of service where like your workers are contractors rather than directly employees themselves. So yeah, that has been an issue. There has been occasional issues where like if a customer is in a less populated area where we don't have as many students, it's sometimes harder to get students out there. That is a bit of a logistical problem. Now we do have a few options. Sometimes we'll offer students like extra money to pay for gas if they're willing to drive out there and to compensate them for the extra time. And or we just run more ads in their area, like through social media or other online I guess advertisement platforms where we can recruit more students in their area and service them on a more reliable basis. The long-term goal is essentially to have a student on every street and customers on every street. So that way, like reliability would be a much easier thing to do. Obviously, that's a big goal, but we aren't really afraid of taking on big challenges at the same time.
Wow. So your focus right now has been snow removal, lawn mowing, and leaf removal, right? Those are the
Yes.
3 areas. Are you planning on expanding the areas as well, or are you at this point just focused on these 3 areas?
So yeah, long term, we definitely want to expand to more skilled services that students can do. Our vision is really to become a platform for any service a student can do. So like not just like beyond just the, I guess the lower skilled like work, like lawn mowing or leaf cleanup or snow removal, to like things like graphic design, website design, tutoring, dog walking, all sorts of things that students can do. We want to become a platform for that. So we do have plans to expand to that. That's our long-term goal. What we're doing right now is starting with services that there's a broad base of students that can do them. And so, I guess it's kind of similar to Amazon's initial strategy of selling books to start with. There was a long tail there. So the economics of selling books worked very well with the early internet. There are other companies that tried to do everything at the start, and it didn't really work out. The infrastructure wasn't there. But as we grow and develop with the resources we gain from starting with these initial services, we can actually gain the capital needed to expand into those more skilled services.
Wow. And is there a particular age group that you're focused on at this point as far as students are concerned?
Yeah, so right now, because I guess the services we offer generally requires travel with cars and to get to job sites, we're generally focused on 16 to 25 years old. Of course, again, as we grow, because like frankly, we think students are a lot more capable than many people give them credit for. So the way the pandemic has shaped online learning, and like we think we can become a platform for services for that students could offer, potentially even other students, but like also could be done without needing a car, and so that might change our age range. But right now we're very focused on that 16 to 25-year-old age group.
Oh, okay. And if they want to reach out to you again, what is the best way to reach out to local students?
So yeah, if they're looking to apply, they can just go to localstudent.ca and click on Become a Local Student. And the process from there is very simple. It's just make an account, fill out your profile. We will review it as soon as we can, and we'll send you an invite if we like your profile. And if they want to just like,
go ahead.
If they have just questions about it, they can just send us an email to info@localstudent.ca. And again, we would be happy to answer any questions they might have.
And are you having any major launches? Like, do you have periods where you're really busy and you need people at a particular period?
Yeah, so very much so. And one of those periods is right now, for instance. The summer tends to be very busy for us since a lot of students are off school, but like there's a big demand for lawn mowing. We're definitely growing incredibly rapidly. We're booked at way more than we thought we would be booked at, when we were initially making plans for this summer already. So yeah, no, right now, if you want to like make very good money with flexible hours, this is a great time to apply because there is a lot of demand for lawn mowing out there right now. We have a lot of customers and a lot of people who want to book with us, and we're having to book like into the future because we can't service them right away. So there's a lot of opportunity here if you want to, I guess, work at local student.
Wow, that is a supremely great problem to have. Oh,
Very
I'm
much so. Very
expanding.
much so.
Yeah, so
very much so.
congratulations. Congratulations
Thank you.
again for this, Daniel. I'll hand it over to Mayura to talk to you about College Pro.
Okay.
Thank you. So now, as Anu mentioned, I'll be talking about College Pro. So first, could you tell us about how you got into the franchise model of College Pro when you were in high school?
Okay, so I was actually in first year university when College Pro, when I guess I got connected with College Pro. So they were doing class talks at university. So they're like, the idea was like, hey, your students, do you want to run a business in the future? Do you want to learn how to run a business with support? Like, well, this is what this opportunity essentially is. And like they sent around a sign up sheet. I'm like, I signed it. I'm like, this is interesting. Like, I want to run a business in the future, but I don't really know if I'm going to end up doing this. I don't really know about this, but I'll put my name on there. Did that. And then I got a call, learned a bit more about the position. And I was essentially like very much hooked on what it offered. Like, I wanted to run my own business. I'd never run a business before. I know there's some people who start when they're like 12, but like, I guess I wasn't one of those. So it was a really great opportunity for me to really learn. Cause like, especially what they talked about was like, you learn how to like, you'll hire your own team, learn about hiring and firing, managing, leadership, sales, marketing, all that stuff. So and you'll learn that in like I guess in a boxed environment in a sense, like because you'll have a lot of support outside of that, which is something that a lot of entrepreneurs lack. That's like a very solid support system. Entrepreneurship is very, very hard, especially if you're going for the first time you're going into it. If you're not really sure what you're facing, it can be very daunting. So having that support system and being able to like having a team of people who are there to like help you. I found that very valuable. So I ended up actually signing up, going through I think 3 different interviews, and actually being accepted as a franchisee for College Pro.
Okay, that's really cool. So what are the skills that you learned to being a franchisee?
Yeah, so it's several of the ones that I already mentioned. I would say the biggest thing though is I really learned is exactly how much more I'm capable of when I really put my mind to things. Like that was like, I had never done anything as big as running a business before. So while I did learn the skill sets, my leadership skills improved vastly. Otherwise, the business wouldn't have worked out. My management skills increased, like my organization, time management, marketing, sales, all those sorts of things, like influencing people, all those sorts of things really developed like in a very rapid manner, because it's almost like learning through, I guess I've heard this term before, like learning through a fire hose, essentially just getting blasted out at you. And it was a very rapid learning experience for me, but I learned all of those skills, but the ability to push through the hard times. There's like, I think the first month, it was just like, wow, this is bad. Here's something that's happened. Here's another bad thing that's happened. Gotta fix this problem now. This customer's unhappy. We have to go back and figure it out. This person quit with no notice. Gotta recruit some more people. Gotta work on my own leadership. So like, like people don't want to quit. Got to make a better working environment. Like essentially like just pushing through that and learning when you're under that kind of stress and pressure. But like with that support system that they also offer was very valuable as well. So I learned, I would say the most valuable thing I learned was how much more I'm capable of.
Okay. So my last question is, why did you decide to leave the franchisee model?
For sure. So when I did College Pro, I ran a College Pro franchise for 2 years. My second year, I actually did it in the summer when I was taking a full course load. Most students who do College Pro, they aren't taking school in the summer. So I was actually running a full course load of running multiple crews of window cleaners, who were, I guess, who are, doing jobs for my customers. I had my assistant managers hired. I had like multiple teams of people like operating, but this time I had to kind of operate it in a different way than the second year. I had to like, I guess figure out ways to reach more customers since I didn't have as much time to personally sell to them. So I had like some students going out there knocking on doors. I also started like trying to do like, Facebook ads or like posting on social media, which did actually help, I guess, help me learn in a bit more of an entrepreneurial way, even more so than just College Pro was initially, because I wasn't following their set pattern and process for the franchises. I had to kind of find a new way of doing things in order to make things work. And after I'd done that, I could have learned a bit more about leadership and management if I had stayed on, but like it wouldn't have been nearly as much as I learned those first 2 years. So because of like, I felt like the learning curve was kind of capped a bit, I decided to leave because of that.
Okay, so thank you for giving such detailed responses. I will now hand it over to Tanuja.
Yeah, so I just want to transition into, I guess, advice about career paths in entrepreneurship. Aside from local student Daniel, what other summer job positions or co-op positions do you know of that are available for high school and university students?
Yeah, okay. So I would say looking out for opportunities. I don't know like directly any specific companies that are super focused on students, not 100% sure of. But if you want to look outside of like the traditional model of Burger King, McDonald's, all those sorts of things, I would say look for other opportunities online. If you already have an idea of what you want to do, reach out to people online, even like sometimes famous people, like send them a note on LinkedIn, or you never know what's going to happen. Like give like, a pretty good example of this is like Steve Jobs. I think he called up like CEO of, I forget who it was when he was a kid, but like, I think it was like some big company, maybe IBM, I can't remember, and asked for a job, and asked for parts to like help build, I guess, a project of his. And he was so impressed, he offered him a job. Now, obviously, times have changed. There's a lot more people doing that, but don't be afraid to take the initiative and actually reach out to people. Just because you think they're too big to reach doesn't mean their system might not read the message and think, hey, you know what, might as well give this kid a shot or something like that. Don't be intimidated by what you don't know, and be willing to make mistakes to kind of learn. Don't be afraid to fail, I guess.
Mm-hmm. So for students who are interested but sort of unsure if they should start a business or not, what can they do to prepare themselves before they run a franchise?
Yeah, okay. No, that's a very good question. So I would say what they really want to focus on is, well, if they can learn how to work in a team, I guess general human dynamics, like how humans work in a team, is a really valuable thing to learn, because like a big problem with startups is beyond, I guess the biggest reason startups fail is like a lack of a product market fit. They build things that no one actually wants. Second biggest reason is they run out of cash. So learning how to manage cash flow. You have money, you make sure you have money coming in that will cover your expenses. And the third biggest reason is the wrong team. So I guess humans as a species are successful because we can work together. That's literally what's built any of our civilizations. One person alone can never do that. So learning how to work with people, how to lead people, how to recruit people is a good thing. On the personal side, I would say things like training your brain to be resilient. And there are ways, like, I guess if you're someone who's like struggles with anxiety or something like that, doing things like meditation to like learn how to manage that better, or keeping yourself healthy, working out. Like stress tends to, I guess, have an atrophying effect on the brain. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur or start a business, you're going to undergo a lot of stress. So almost preparing yourself for that, preparing yourself for the hard times. And I guess almost developing, it might sound a bit cliche, but developing a growth mindset, like, looking at things and seeing the positive side of that, that is a very important thing to do. And it will, if you don't have that, there's a good chance that you'll lose faith in yourself when times are hard. And that can be a bit of an issue, because like if that happens, if you don't believe it, you can make something work. Odds are you won't be able to convince anyone else you can, and they won't join, or they'll lose faith and quit. And I guess so. Really, learning how to stay optimistic in the face of very daunting odds is going to be vital if you want to be an entrepreneur.
Mhm. So you're mentioning all these skills like having a growth mindset, being resilient, having those soft skills. How did you apply that when you were first starting your business? Like, what were the initial steps you took? For example, like when it comes to gaining clients or marketing.
Yeah. Okay. So again, it'll depend on, I guess, what business you're starting, but a common thing you hear in business is like building scalable business models, things that I guess like if you put in effort now, like it'll take less effort to gain even more and more clients as it grows. It won't take the same amount of effort to, I guess, maintain the system, and it grows very, I guess, with not easily, but with relative ease. So, but when you're starting a business, you can't be afraid to take things that, like non-scalable actions that don't scale up. So like if that means knocking on doors to get your first few customers, do that. If it means, like calling people up, or like using, I guess, I don't know, your parents, like I guess, are friends with like, I don't know, like a family who might be your target market, for instance, using that info to kind of get like your first few customers. Do things like that if you need to get your first few customers, and before you can really start developing your brand. Don't try to like, I guess, you don't necessarily need to start with something that's going to be like the perfect model right from the outset, because it's very hard to know exactly what the market wants before you've started actually working on your idea. And it can be very difficult to like build a scalable model without any customers at all. So doing things that kind of fly, I guess, in the face of traditional business logic, things like that is that's what I would say are the best things to do to get your first few customers.
So really starting off small, I guess.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've been through an entire journey, right, as an entrepreneur. So, you probably had a lot of hurdles and challenges along the way. As a student entrepreneur, what sort of lessons did you learn through this journey? And like, what can you share with high school students who want to be entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Okay. It's always such an interesting question to hear, because many entrepreneurs' journeys can vary significantly. So it's very hard to give specific advice to people's businesses without hearing the specifics. But that's why, like again, like I said, maintaining that belief in yourself is key, and this has been seen across species. So kind of a dark experiment that I actually heard about, the 1950s. I guess there was an experiment done with rats, and what they would do is they would drop the rat in water, and essentially, as horrible as it might sound, wait to see how long it would take for them to drown. Now, the thing is, what some of them did is it took on average around 15 minutes. So what now, as horrible as this is, what they ended up doing is they waited till a rat was about to fail, then they took them out and they dried them off, gave them some food, then dropped them back in the water to see how long they would take before they could, they would, I guess, almost start to drown again. 60 hours. 60 hours. They went from 15 minutes to 60 hours. And that just shows like, if you really believe in what you're doing, you will have much more mental stamina, much more endurance towards, being able to do something. And, humans are much more, I guess, obviously more emotionally complex than rats. But we essentially, if you really believe in yourself, you really want to, you can really do amazing things. Now, at the same time, you do have to be careful. Dunning-Kruger effect is a very real thing. So never get to the point where if you think you know everything, you're going to get smacked in the face in business. You're always, I guess, around the corner from another punch in the face, another problem as you grow. And it's very easy to fall into that trap. Think, oh, wow, I've tasted some success. I'm all this, I'm the greatest. You will get, if you aren't able to maintain an objective view of your own performance, you're going to get hurt. So I would say, really kind of it's almost like a dual-edged sword, I guess, between humility and self-belief bordering on arrogance. you need to be aware of what you aren't good at, and like be aware there's a lot that you don't know, and be willing to learn it at all times. But you also have to have the belief that you can learn it, you can solve these problems, even if it doesn't look like, even if you don't have the skill set today, you can learn the skill sets or recruit the people to do such a thing. That will keep you going. Yeah, that will keep you going far past, I guess, the point that you could even, I guess, you would imagine yourself doing. Like I said, 15 minutes versus 60 hours. That's what people will do. That's what rats will do when they think there's a positive outcome at the end of the day, that they can win, that they can survive. So consider applying that aspect to your life if you're an entrepreneur, and you'll be able to go much, much further than you ever thought you could.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what you're saying is you sort of have to be able to balance like believing in yourself while also having an open mindset. So being open to learning other perspectives. So I just want to end it off, Daniel, with one last question for students, again, who want to start a business. Would you recommend them just starting on early and feeling fast? Or do you think it's best to get a corporate job, save up some money, and then start their business?
Yeah, so again, very situational, but I will say that if you can start small, you can potentially do both. But like, don't be like I said earlier, don't be afraid to start small. It can, like, I mean, like Nike started out as a side hustle. Sarah Blakely started out selling like Spanx through her apartment. So I would say if you really want to go for it now, try it, start small, and don't be afraid to fail. If you do go the corporate route, there have been entrepreneurs, like, you know, the average age for successful technology entrepreneurs is in the 40s, which is a lot different than what most people think. That doesn't mean you can't be successful if you're young. There's plenty of those examples out there, right? So I would say the biggest risk with the corporate job is like, are you getting a corporate job because you essentially are just trying to stay in your comfort zone? Are you doing that so like you can say, oh yeah, someday, often like years later, I'll start a business? If that's the reason you're doing it, then you need to be very aware of that, because you won't, essentially. If that's the reason why you're doing that, it's very easy to become comfortable. And if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you really have to push out of your comfort zone at all times. And that is a very hard thing to do, especially like over time. You'll want to settle into a comfort zone. You really have to push out of that. So if you have the resources behind you, you know, you don't need a job, start small, try something, go for it. If you're in a position where you need the resources, like work at a job to gain up the resources. But if you're doing that, always reach out, keep learning on your own time, you know, about entrepreneurship. Start something small on the side, see where it goes. If you really want to be an entrepreneur, like if it does grow big enough, then you can quit your job and go for it then and there. But being a student does offer you a lot more flexibility to try both options. So I would say if you can, go for it. If your position is not the greatest, then maybe wait a bit.
Okay. Thank you so much. That's it for me, and I'll pass it to Anu.
Well, thank you so much, Daniel. I mean, the fact that you shared so much about local students, and I wish you the most success. I think this is going to flourish so well, because the intention is there to give teenagers and students the opportunity to be entrepreneurial, set their own time, and also get paid fairly, right? That's a big mission, and it's lovely that local students focuses on it. And I really loved your entrepreneurial spirit, where you started off with College Pro and shared your learnings being an entrepreneur yourself. Love the concept about the mice. I hadn't heard of it, but I can totally relate to it. Even as human beings, resilience is definitely one of the most important characteristics that one needs to have, not just for entrepreneurship, but for anything that they take on with life. So thank you so much for your time, Daniel, and I wish you the most success with local students and for everything else.
Thank you very much, Anu. It was great being here. Thank you guys. Thank you, everyone. I guess have a great rest of your day.